Hey guys, it's Marshall Tingle with your Superior Ag Insurance Ringside Report for this past week, the week of October 16th through the 22nd. Now, I'm coming to you today, the last month or a little bit, maybe a little bit better. Seems like it's been nothing but negative news. But today, I'm staying positive. I've got good news to you. How long the good news is going to last, or how much it's worth, I can't answer. But I can tell you this: October's almost over. It's calling for rain in the forecast, and this cattle market seems like it's taking an upturn. Not much of an upturn, but it still seems like it's taking just a tick to the positive side. So let's talk about these runs. So runs across the state of Kentucky, I'd consider them pretty much on par for what they should be and what they have been. So as far as how many cattle were actually marketed across the state of Kentucky, you're looking at 19,332 head. Now compare that to last week, down 900 head. Compare it to a year ago, up 700 head. So law averages kind of tells me we're right on par for where we should be. Now, as far as your feeder cattle are concerned, feeder cattle, they call them anywhere from unevenly steady, anywhere from $4 lower up to $4 higher, some instances sharply higher. And I can tell you from my position, cattle did trade a little bit stronger. The demand was a little bit better. Of course, it was going to be better on weaned and preconditioned cattle right now, but as far as cattle in general, unless they're just toad fat, and crying for the mama so bad you can't stand it, I did see an uptick in the market. Now, let's talk about these yearlings. Yearlings steady to $4 higher. And here's one thing that I will say about this. The yearlings this past week, your 6s, 7s, 8s, and even into 9s were the most consistent I've seen them in a long time. Now, don't get me wrong, there still were some instances of some being sharply lower, but without seeing kind of condition, I can't answer. But as far as a whole on your yearlings, the yearlings this past week were tight. We'll talk about that here in a second. Now, here's the negative side of things. This is the one negative note I will put on the week. So, as far as your lightweight calves, the spreads on this have been about 55, 60 cents at the top. This week we did see 70-cent spreads on your full weight cattle. And again, that's what I keep driving back to the point of a fleshy balling calf that still misses his mama versus one who's just rock and roll ready, 30, 45 days plus weaned on his weaning, along with some vaccine in him. Preferably 2 rounds, but if you've got 1 round of shots in him, that daggone sure isn't going to hurt him. Let's talk about these full weights real fast. So your full weight steer cattle this week, $1.30 to $2.04. Like I said, that's a 74-cent spread. That is huge. But again, it is October, and again, October's almost over. Now, let's talk about the average on this. So I would say the average on these this past week has been the tightest I've seen them in a while. Average on these, I didn't do the math on them like I've done the last 2 weeks where I total everything up, but you can just pretty much eyeball this and say $1.80 is going to be pretty much your average on your 4 weights. Now let's talk about your 5 weights. 5 weight spread is more about like what we've been saying. 5 weight steer cattle this week, $1.35 to $1.92. That's a 50-cent spread on those, which is still a huge spread. But now compare that to a 74-cent spread, 57 doesn't look too bad. Now, I'd say on the average on these, as far as the whole class of 1 and 2 5-weight steers, I'd say $1.60 to $1.70 would catch them. You could call it $1.65 if you wanted to, but I want to be safe and say right around $1.60 to $1.70. I'll give you a dime spread on those. Now, let's talk about these yearlings. Steady to $4 higher is what they call them. I want to tell you that I think this is the most consistent I've seen these cattle, as far as your yearling cattle, your heavier cattle, in quite some time. So let's talk about these real fast. So as far as your yearlings are considered, here's 65 head of these. These are going to be mixed steers. 823 pounds on the average, $1.68. So that's a pretty solid trade on a mixed set of steers. That's what we've been saying per the last month. Now go a little bit heavier. Here's 58 head of these. These are black-hided steers, 857 pounds on the average, $1.69 a quarter. So we'll give them $1 a quarter based on the fact that they're all blacks versus being mixed. Now let's talk about here's some heavier 8s. Here's 57 head of these. These are all black steers as well, 889 pounds on the average at $166.70. Not bad. But here's probably the most outstanding set of price-wise of cattle that I've seen go through the barns this past week across the state of Kentucky. Here's a big set of heavy 8 weights. Here's 60 head of these. These are blacks, Charolais, and reds. 898 pounds on the average. You're looking at $1.70.10. So that is a outstanding trade. Like I said, I haven't laid eyes on the cattle. I don't know what they look like, but as far as on paper, that is a very, very solid number on these cattle. Now, here's what I want to tell you this too. Like I said, these cattle are tight. I would say as a whole, there's about 4 or 5 examples out of the whole state that I saw that were below that $1.65 mark. But I'd say most of them are going to be right there in that $1.65 to $1.70 mark, with the majority of them, like we just saw, being about $1.66 to $1.68.9. that's a good sign. You know, these past 2 or 3 weeks, these things have been everywhere, and I think that they've kind of balanced out, so to speak, and consistency is really looking good on your yearling prices. Now, I do want to say one other thing here. Now, here's another set. If you want to compare your lightweights, here's 20, or lighter set, I'm sorry, a smaller group of them. Here's 21 head of steers. These are all black steers, 845 pounds on the average at $1.6825. So if your counting condition's good, is what I'm driving at. If your counting condition's good, you don't necessarily have to have that big load to get a load price right now. They're really after these really good cattle right now, and I think as long as the quality's there, so your price will stand. They'll sure enough take care of you. Now, but I also want to make an example too while I'm talking about these yearlings. We never hardly talk about heifers. This heifer trade is really strong right now. And your heifers are almost trading right at steer price. And as far as comparing these Kentucky heifer prices right now to your CME feeder cattle index as a whole on a heifer, we are rocking it. So check out these 2 sets of heifers now. Here's 80 head of black heifers. They're 659 pounds on the average, $1.7075. That's almost steer price for a 7-weight heifer, so pretty good. Now here's your closer set, closer to 800 pounds. Here's 65 head of all black heifers as well, 783 pounds on the average, $1.66. Now, what's your CME right now on these? If you average your CME as a whole, you're looking at about $1.55 is what your CME adjustment will be on a heifer. So right here, we've got it beat by 15 cents, 11 at the bottom. So that's a really good sign. Now let's talk about your CME feeder cattle index as a whole. So for the past week, your CME feeder cattle index is Monday the 17th, you're looking at 172.27. By Tuesday the 18th, you're looking at 172.03. By the time Wednesday rolled around, you're looking at 172.77. That's on the 19th. By Thursday the 20th, you're looking at 172.94. And we close out the week on an upside. Friday the 21st was 173.62. So that's consistent as well, which is a good sign. That tells me that not only are we being more consistent on these yearlings, so are they being nationwide, for lack of better words. So that's a really good sign. Now, if you have any questions about an LRP policy that you have in state, a livestock risk protection policy, or if you're interested in the LRP policy on a set of new cattle that you're putting in for the fall, or even on your fall calf crop, or even some calves that you don't have born yet, be sure to look into Ian. Talk to us. Call us at Superior Ag Insurance. Call Ian Thomas, 859-613-2453, or check us out on the web, www.superioragins.com. Thank you so much. Stay positive. We'll talk to you soon.